My name's River Harper, and I'm a student at Cabrini. I grew up in Hockessin, Delaware, with an older sister and two loving parents. I drank for the first time in 6th grade, and all in all, I ended up passing out and falling down the stairs, and I loved it. Sometime in middle school, I started smoking weed too. I loved that, and I realized I could do that throughout the day, whereas drinking, if I black out, it doesn't really work, and it's not as functional.
Addiction isn't a choice, it's a battle. Nearly 21 million Americans face it every year.
Michael Francis Green just celebrated last year 46 years sober. Was also a drug and alcohol counselor at Westchester University. If you get drunk every Thursday night for a full year, that's 52 times a year. If you get drunk Thursday and Friday, that's 104 days. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is 156. Whether you have alcoholic parents or not, getting drunk half the calendar days during the year, you're starting to develop a really severe problem.
Into high school, where my first break from it came when I just got my license and I picked up my first DUI a couple months after that. That was the first time I dealt with the mental side of withdrawals, and I went crazy. Ended up in a psych ward, and it was the most, it was extreme depression, and that's what I viewed life without drugs and alcohol was. So I got out and went back to using and found a way to fake the drug tests. I have two younger brothers who are about 10 and 11 years younger than me. One time my mom and I were going at it. I'd been caught again for something drug and alcohol related, and my little brother came downstairs, and I think he was like 6 or 7 at the time, and said that he wanted to kill himself with a knife, and that was a direct result of my addictive behavior. Yeah, so that was rough, and shortly after my parents realized that that wasn't sustainable for me to stay in the house. I was given the ultimatum: either you try to stop using drugs and alcohol again, or you have to leave. It wasn't even really a decision. I just said I'm gonna have to go. I had a coach reach out to me like a couple weeks before graduation, and I kind of brushed him off until my last lacrosse game. Then I was sad lacrosse would be over, because that was kind of a staple in my life the whole time. It was structure in a chaotic life. And during that freshman year, I started having a lot of health issues. I started throwing up blood pretty routinely, and I was going downhill for sure. In that freshman year is when I had one of my closest to death moments, when I went and visited a buddy in Philly. I don't really know what happened, because obviously I was inebriated beyond belief. Ended up taking a Xanax that was not good, laced with fentanyl presumably, and had an overdose. My mom had a nightmare that night she was holding me as a baby, and I stopped breathing. And so we hadn't been in contact for a while, but she proceeded to call my phone over and over again, and it woke up the people in the apartment, and they came to check on me, and I was completely unresponsive. And so I just woke up in the morning in the hospital not knowing that any of this stuff happened. And then when it got pieced together from hearing people's sides of the story, it really, really scared me. It scared me so badly that I took 2 days off from drinking or using drugs. I was in a rough spot, but I didn't want to die. In another year, I ended up in another rehab because I was sick of the way I was feeling, losing everyone in my life that cared for me. They couldn't stand to watch me deteriorate any longer. I thought I was completely ready. I thought I was done, but once I got out, I lasted 100 days and relapsed on the 101st day. It was like they call it white knuckling, but I was just bearing the pain for 100 days to try to reach that 100-day mark. Yeah, that continued for a while. That went until December of my junior year, and everyone in the lacrosse house went home for Christmas except for me. I didn't have a place to go. I didn't have anyone that wanted to be around me. Wasn't invited home for Christmas. They knew that I couldn't handle even an evening without getting intoxicated. All of this is happening. I'm in a really low spot. I decide I'm going to have one day without drinking or using drugs, and I wake up being shaken by my girlfriend and her parents in some neighborhood, and I had driven my car out of gas, passed out drunk. There was a full empty bottle next to me on the seat, and an open bottle of pills. And I had no idea what happened. And I knew some stage of my life was over at that point. At that point, I thought that I was either going to die if I kept using, or I wouldn't be able to handle the mental torture of being sober. And so I presumed that I was going to end up dead in sobriety too. Yeah, finally that day I called Timmy Brooks, because I remembered him from my team, knew he was sober, knew he was doing well. I'd called him after the last rehab stint, and he said, hang tight and I'll see if I can get a bed open for you at my sober living house that he runs. That's when my journey of sobriety started. I'm River Harper. I've been sober since January 11th, 2021, and living every day as if it's a blessing.